Today is October the 8th. My name is Hans Gaarder, and I'm here in Oslo with Omnec Onec, who is going to one of the major participants in the extraterrestrial conference in Bergen at the end of this week. So Omnec, for those who might not know about your life and your origin, would you please make a brief introduction about yourself?
Oh, of course. I'm Omnec Onec. I come from the planet that you know as Venus, but not from the physical society. At the time it was a physical society, I didn't exist there. I was born when it had progressed to a higher level. It now exists on the astral. That's where I was living. I was living there as a child. I looked like a small child on Earth, even though I had lived there 130 Earth years. And then I was asked by my masters and spiritual teachers, would I come to planet Earth and as an experiment see how that physical life affects a person who originally had an astral body and manifested a physical body to live in the physical universe. And so I was excited as a child. I thought it would be an adventure. And they said I had karma with a little girl here whose name was Sheila. And so they started to prepare me, teach me about her family, and I got spiritual permission to accompany her soul in the birth process. And therefore I received the genetic imprint so that I would have identical features and similar characteristics to her. And I was like an unborn twin. My soul accompanied her birth. It was a process that was allowed because the spiritual masters said it was necessary to clear up a karmic connection that her and I had. At one time, she was my twin sister in France on Earth. They had a revolution, and I was working for the people and against the government, and they wanted to behead me, and my sister stood up and said she was I when they came to the house so that I could continue my work. So she died in my place. And in this life, Sheila would have a bus accident at 7 years old on the way to her mother from her grandmother. And so I would continue in her place. I'd replace her with her family. It was assumed that they would take me to the location where the bus accident happened, and that they would just replace me as her, because she had died during the bus accident and burned. And so the exchange was made. But first, when I first came to Earth with my uncle Odin, who also has a physical body, he works as a scientist on a big mothership outside the Earth's perimeter, and he accompanied me, and my first stop was Tibet, and I stayed there for 1 year to learn English and to adjust to the physical body in a monastery that is primarily for that reason. It exists on many different levels, and so it's easier to adjust to the physical vibrations. And so I went there to learn to use my vocal cords and to learn how the body functions, which is all, the whole story is told in detail in my book, which is available. It was written in the 60s and published in 1991 by a UFO researcher and Air Force colonel named Wendelle Stevens in America. And then I got invited to Germany, and from there I got a publisher who published the book, and then I wrote 2 more books while I was in Germany, and I stayed there for like 11 or 12 years working and doing tours. And recently another German publisher redid my book, and it's a trilogy with all 3 of the books that I published in Germany in English. So now it's available on the market, called the Venusian trilogy, and every detail of my life and what I've experienced is in the book, which people get really excited because they feel a great connection to the astral dimension, because it's so much more wonderful than living on Earth. And I talk about it a great deal in the book.
Yeah, I read the two first parts of it, your life in Venus and your life in here on Earth, and it's very, very fascinating.
Yeah, and the one on Earth, you need a box of tissues. It's pretty sad.
Yeah, you had a rough time,
Yeah.
much rough time here on Earth.
Yeah, that was because I agreed to give Sheila the chance to be free of her karma.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it would have been hers.
Yeah, I see. Yeah. So once a portrait photo of you was on the cover of a magazine. Was it known then that the cover actually showed the woman from the planet Venus?
Yeah.
Yeah. What magazine was it?
I was on several in Germany.
In Germany also?
I was in Germany on the cover of Das magazine, which is a magazine in Switzerland that comes out with a newspaper.
Yeah.
I was on the cover. Okay. And I was in Frau Actual and Der Spiegel. I was in that book as well.
Yeah.
I was in many magazines. But when I was on the cover in America, I was just a model and a waitress. Nobody knew who I was except my family.
Yeah, that's also one I thought
and
about.
Close friends. That's the one. Nobody knows that.
You're pretty blonde, but they didn't know that you had
of course not.
a certain origin.
No.
It was too early.
Yeah, it was not the right time.
Yeah, and I see. And another job you had was as a young adult. You received the clothing of the visitors at a prestigious restaurant. And what happened when the world-famous boxer Muhammad Ali once entered the restaurant? And you had to receive his fur. It was.
I was working in a famous nightclub in Chicago called Faces, where a lot of actors and movie stars came. And I worked in a coat room with my daughter. And the owner had told us that we couldn't be responsible for fur coats. These were very wealthy people, and they belonged to this private club. And I worked for this company, and so when this big, tall, black guy came in with a blonde, and he was giving me this huge, long fur coat, and I said, "I'm sorry, I can't accept that." He said, "Yes, you can. I'm Muhammad Ali," and I said, "I don't know who that is." And I argued with him for 5 or 10 minutes, and my boss came over and said, "You can take his coat." And they laughed about it for weeks because they couldn't believe that I'm so small and I was arguing with this big boxer because I didn't know who he was. And I was saying, "No, I can't." And he said, "Yes, you can." He was being very strong, and I was like, "No, I can't accept it." And "Yes, you can." So everybody made fun of me for weeks. They called me Miss Muhammad, you know. Here she is, Miss Muhammad Ali.
Yeah, that's a good one. And you first spoke in public about your extraplanetary origin at the UFO conference in Tucson, Arizona in 1991. That was organized by the famous UFO investigator Wendelle Stevens. So how did you feel?
Yeah, he published my book.
Yeah. So how did you feel about that appearance, and how were the reactions you experienced?
Oh, it was absolutely wonderful. I was overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Because I was nervous, and Wendell had went through all this trouble to let me walk around with Sheila Gibson tag, and on the other side was Omnec, but I wasn't supposed to show nobody.
Yeah.
And they had to guess who I was.
Yeah.
And the only person who guessed was from Germany, Michael Haysom, a ufologist, I think, from Germany.
Yeah.
And he walked over and said, "Hello, Omnec, welcome to Earth." And I said, "How did you know who I was?" He said, "Just the way you look. I seen you," and I said, "That has to be her." And
Yeah.
I was surprised because I hadn't made any public appearance. And I was the last speaker on the program.
Yeah.
Wendell had planned it that way. He planned this whole thing like a surprise.
Yeah.
And it went over very well.
Yeah.
And I had a standing ovation. I had one man who was asking me, "Do you expect people to believe this?" and all that. And I said, "You know what? I can't prove anything to you. I only have my story and my knowledge, and you have to accept that as a reality and you must be interested or you wouldn't be in the audience, but I'm not going to waste my time or the other people who came to hear arguing with you or trying to convince you. That was it.
Yeah.
And of course I got people applaud and they were really happy because I did it in a kind way, but I told them I didn't care. My attitude was, I don't care if you believe me or not, because it doesn't change my story or who I am. But I won't argue with you or, because there's no use. You can't prove anything anyway if people don't want to be proved. And I said people have to decide for themselves. I can just tell a story and it's up to them to decide. That's how I feel.
Yeah. So, through Wendelle Stevens, around that same period, you met a guy named Derek, who later has appeared in public under the code name Connor Orion. He had been a guard at the secret S4 location, where they were kept extraterrestrial craft, extraterrestrial
I met
visitors.
him once.
So, did you go towards the east coast with him and Wendelle Stevens to try to find some photo documentations from the S4?
No.
Oh, you didn't go?
No, I went to the West Coast, but I only made appearances in different parts of California.
Okay, I see.
And interviews with like Marina Popovich and stuff.
Yeah. She came from Russia, or she stayed in the U.S.?
She was on a tour in America.
Yeah.
And she heard that I was there at the UFO Congress. And they were trying to do an interview with the TVs and stuff. And she ran over to me and gave me a big hug. And we were like two children.
Yeah.
And they were wanting to know who I was, so then I got a lot of publicity plus,
Yeah.
because they were wondering why she was so interested in me and she didn't speak English at all.
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't speak Russian, but we communicated
Oh, really?
telepathically.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was wonderful.
She's a cosmonaut. She had been out in space.
Yeah, and she was very, very interested. And she was excited to meet me.
Yeah.
Because she said she knew absolutely there were people from other planets.
Oh, she was cosmically connected.
Exactly.
Yeah. I see. So it seems that Las Vegas for decades has been visited by many extraterrestrials. Charles Hall, who was invited to the extraterrestrial conference in Bergen, said he personally saw tall white ETs downtown Las Vegas. And in your book you have told about Flynn from Mars, who was stationed in Las Vegas and who cooperated with your Uncle Odin to have you settled in the US when you came to Nevada as a little girl. So have you yourself been to Las Vegas?
Oh, many times, yeah.
Yeah. So there have been, you're also another extraterrestrial person who have appeared in Las Vegas.
Yeah, but I didn't go there to gamble.
Yeah.
Some of the whites, I think they go there for that.
Yeah.
For the excitement.
Yeah.
That's what I heard. I don't really know. I read a little bit about it.
Yeah. Did you meet any other extraterrestrials while being in Las Vegas?
No, not really.
Not Flynn or?
No, I seen them from a distance, but that's it.
Okay.
I didn't go over and introduce myself.
Yeah, I see. So, before coming to Earth in your present incarnation, was it considered for you to live in another country than the US, like Canada, Hungary, or Peru?
No.
It has to be the US to take the place of this Sheila Gibson?
Yeah, right. It was the connection to her and her family.
Yeah, I see. So
that's why I grew up where I grew up in America.
Yeah, since it was the connection with her, it was you also got her family.
It was the karmic connection, sure.
Yeah, I see.
Otherwise, I would have chose a different place, I'm sure.
Yeah, not such a rough place, yeah. So, you had previous lives here on Earth. You were a dancer in Egypt during the pharaohs?
Yeah, I was living in the time of Atlantis and Lemuria at that time.
Oh, you also lived there, and then?
Yeah. And I was in Egypt. I was an American Indian. I've been on Earth many times.
Because you can, you have soul memories, so you remember all your previous incarnations?
Yes, I do.
So, how was it? Yeah.
And when I see souls, I know them. Even if I don't know them physically from this life, I have a connection to them usually from another time.
Yeah.
So every meeting I go to, it's like meeting friends I haven't met.
Oh yeah.
A reunion, yeah.
Ah, interesting, fascinating.
Yeah, it's really nice.
So how was it like in Lemuria? It was more high tech than the Earth is today.
Much,
Yeah.
much more consciously aware. They were spiritually aware people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they were some sort of colony coming from another place in the galaxy.
Yeah, they were a mixture from Mars and from Venus, and there were some Palladians, I think. They all lived in Lemuria.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a big space. Most of the, at the time, the Earth was young, and most of the colonies here actually came from other planets in this solar system.
Yeah.
Because their planets were going into the dormant state where they wouldn't support physical life, so they migrated to Earth.
Mm-hmm. I see. So what caused the destruction of Lemuria?
It was an invasion of Palladians. It's mentioned in my Unknown History,
Yeah.
which Anya is going to make available through her publication.
Yeah.
They were wanting the technology which they wouldn't share because they said you had to have a certain awareness because this technology was misused and they didn't want it used for war purposes.
Yeah.
And so they invaded Atlantis and Lemuria in a warlike way to take the technology, and that's what happened. And it's all in detail in my book.
Okay. So I thought Lemuria maybe went under, was destroyed before Atlantis. Was some sort of war?
They destroyed their own technology
Okay.
to prevent them from having all the technology.
Mm-hmm.
They took some of the technology and they genetically manipulated humans and divided the brain into two halves and nullified the half that operates in connection with the other dimensions and the extraterrestrial ancestors.
Mm-hmm.
And so they only left intact the part that functions in the physical here.
Mm-hmm.
And human beings haven't been the same since.
So it's like people descended from Lemuria, although the place was somewhat destroyed. I've learned it's now below the Gobi Desert in Asia, but people kept breathing from the Lemurians.
Well, a lot of the people escaped into the center of the earth where they still reside, and they're still totally have everything intact, and they're waiting for the transformation of the earth.
Okay.
So they can rejoin the humans on the surface.
Okay, so there are humans living inside Earth.
Yeah, I don't know so much about that because I that's not within my realm of knowledge, but
Yeah.
I know they exist because of the history.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But do they like escape from Earth from time to time? If they have some high technology, they might have spaceships and some hidden openings just to...
They have openings. I don't know exactly what they do if they come out in their ships and they go to different places. I'm
Yeah.
sure they do.
Yeah.
I'm sure they explore.
Yeah.
But I'm not positive. I don't know much about it. I'm sure there are books written about this.
Yeah.
People have written stories about it. They know more than I do.
So they don't come up here on the surface to just mingle with ordinary humans?
No, because people on Earth, you know, they have controlling societies, religions, and so on, and people don't have much freedom, and they're not very aware spiritually.
Yeah.
So they're waiting for the transformation and the change on Earth to
Yeah.
take place.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting. So I've learned in that in Atlantis it was a bit more. It was not so spiritually enlightened as in Lemuria. It was more like negative use of misuse and technology and such things. But those were done by the invaders, or how was the Atlantis story?
Yeah, there was the invaders who came and infiltrated the society and created divisions and negative instances within the society.
Yeah.
And corruption, yeah.
Okay. So and these invaders, were they humans?
The Palladians.
They were human Palladians, or were they another species?
No, they were Palladians. Palladians have 7 different planets, and they're very divided, and half of them are very controlling, and half of them are very spiritually aware.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting to know this large difference between the Pleiadians themselves.
Yeah.
So you were also around when Jesus Christ lived here on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
So can you tell something about what happened, what you witnessed that happened then?
I was Peter,
Oh, yeah.
and I didn't really have complete faith in Christ.
Mm-hmm.
And then after what happened to Christ, I vowed that when I returned, I would do something to help him, because people on earth have done everything in Christ's name since he was destroyed. And they live their lives, and everything they do in the name of Christ puts karma on him instead of them taking responsibility for themselves. And I mention that in the true story of Christ because I want people, and I know that people want Christ to be free.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that this was intentionally set up by the Romans.
Mm-hmm.
They put a scripture in the Bible that said everything, if you believe in Christ, you should do everything in his name. And they intentionally did that to create karma for him, to hold him in another dimension so he couldn't return.
So how is Christ doing nowadays? Has he been reincarnated now, maybe, or
No, he is becoming free, though.
at the soul level?
People are becoming aware and released in him, you know, they're not holding him anymore.
Mm-hmm. So there's a large square, a large space in the center of Rome, which actually carries your name, it's the Peter Square.
I didn't know that. I know there's places named after Peter, but I never visited him. I never thought of it as me, even though it was me at that time.
Yeah.
But now it's hard to know that it was me. I mean, I think about it and I'm like overwhelmed and mostly saddened because I didn't believe totally Christ at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I was a follower, but not totally a believer.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a regretful life.
Yeah, very, very interesting. So now let's talk a bit about the life on Venus and people who come from the planet Venus. A Venusian with the name of Valiant Thor. He came to the USA in the 1950s, and he spent 3 years at the Pentagon meeting President Eisenhower and others.
Yeah.
He looked like an ordinary human, and he came from the interior of the planet Venus. So, do the people living in the interior of Venus live at the astral plane, as you did over there, or do they live at the physical plane?
They live in the physical.
Yeah?
Yeah. The story is in my book about when at one time we went and lived underground because we were afraid of the sun.
Mm-hmm.
And some people followed Zadrian, a teacher, back to the surface because he proved that it was safe.
Mm-hmm.
And some didn't come, so that was a division of the people at the time.
Yeah. So there are large civilizations, particularly inside Venus, but also then inside Earth at present.
Most planets are hollow because the magnetic energy that is the gravity force flows in and around the planets.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so there's the interface between gravitation and magnetism.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. So, according to my sources, Earth is one of the few, or maybe the only planet in the galaxy that has a money system. How do you live well at Venus without having money?
Well, when we were physical, we had a barter system. You know, we traded goods for. If you had a talent and you could create cloth or something, then we just traded. So we survived that way in small villages.
Yeah, producing what you needed and just changing between you.
That's how we worked it.
Yeah.
And we walked away from the big companies and the systems of controlling and freed ourselves because they were using the multitudes to run their companies, and they couldn't operate without the little people.
Yeah, so that was some sort of tyrannical regime at Venus.
It was a bloodless revolution.
Yeah, but also then were in power. Did they have a specific cosmic origin?
No.
They were ordinary Venusian humans.
Yeah, who succumbed to the negative forces and controlling forces, and they migrated to Earth and to other planets where they live and reside. Their ancestors, I mean, and now they're the ones that control and live here.
Yeah, so yeah, the story is now repeating here on Earth.
Exactly. Same old story again.
Yeah, it seems. I assume there are other people from Venus living on Earth now. Have you met any of them?
No, they only live here a short time.
Okay.
They work in society and they complete their business, and they don't stay here all their life as I have.
They prefer not to. It's maybe more comfortable at their home planet, or
they're only comfortable here for a short time.
I see. So now a bit about life in other dimensions. So you are told that during your life at the astral plane at Venus, from where you were following the life of the Gibson family in the US that you later became a part of. So were you given information about the life of this family, or were you yourself in a way able to watch them from your place at astral level?
No, I was told by teachers who studied them, and they had the ability, the spiritual masters, to go and travel into time and the future and in the past, and they told me the history of the family and their names, so I could be familiar with particular relatives of Sheila's that I would be exchanging my life with. So I've become familiar with their names.
Yeah. So, but are there some people in other dimensions or out there who can, in a way, monitor us from a distance?
In the spacecraft, they can see people walking around on the streets and stuff. They have this technology, but they don't read people's minds, and they don't, because there's a spiritual protection for each individual.
Okay.
But they can monitor your whereabouts and your actions, but not in the houses outside.
There's a famous channeler called Bashar, who is channeling some being from Setari Sikili, and he got the question, do you have television? And then he answered, no, we are watching you. So it's like, how visible is life down here for those out there? Is it like when this summer it was the football first championship in Brazil, that some people out in space could, from a distance, watch the games and see how it was and enjoy the excitement?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, that it is like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's Anya.
Yeah. So
it's not the newspaper.
or some spy.
Or some spy.
So now let's talk a bit about soul. Is it so that many life forms apart from humans have soul, like wild animals in the forest, tigers and elephants and so on?
Every animal, every plant, every mineral is a soul, and they're in a certain life cycle. Every soul has to go through the cycle of mineral, plant, animal before it's human, and serve purposes. And that's the whole soul evolution. Individually, it's a part of souls wanting to experience everything possible in the physical realm. And it's part of the soul's evolution, because the soul eventually, after it reaches human state, will experience every detail of being a human, ugly and good, because to a soul, nothing is bad or good. It's only a valuable experience. And then it will go on its evolution and gather all the knowledge it can until it has the awareness of the Creator, and then it will become a co-worker with the Creator and do jobs on higher realms. So that is the journey of soul, part of the journey of soul.
Yeah.
Soul is existing forever.
Yeah.
It's eternal. It's, you don't know how long you've been here. Millions and millions of years, you know, of your existence.
Yeah.
Because you've been a mineral, you've been a plant, you've been an animal. And since you're human, you're caretakers for all these other forms because you need them in order to exist. You have to eat, you have to have minerals, you have to have meat, and so on. And every animal and plant knows that it serves a purpose for the higher being so itself can become a higher being. It's a whole process that God created in a never-ending cycle so that God never ceases to exist but exists forever through its creation.
Yeah, I see. So, but is it so that it's like human stage, being a human is like the highest physical level of the soul ladder? It's my impression that maybe some animals are even wiser than humans.
No, but animals that are pets and in close proximity in lives with people are going to become a human next, and that's why they have a close relationship with people, so they can observe how to behave, how to be a person.
Oh, interesting. So
House pets and horses, you know, animals that are really involved with humans are on the last stage.
Yeah. So, but people who have been humans once or many times, can they later reincarnate as an animal, for instance?
No. Once you're a human, you can't go back. You always go forward.
You can't go back?
No.
Okay.
When you reach a human state, you experience every human being that's possible, which is many. I mean, there's warriors, there's murderers, there's artists, there's everything. Movie stars. I mean, you've got to have every aspect of human abilities
But
before you're finished as being a person.
But you can circulate between planets, being in different
Yeah,
planets
of
in
course
this
you can
galaxy,
be
other
on-
galaxies.
Yeah, of course you cover the whole physical galaxy.
Because there are lots of humans in many planets.
And there's also non-human, but they're higher advanced forms. They don't look like human beings, but they're intelligent beings.
What appearances might they have?
Oh, the Greys, which you know about,
Yeah.
and some reptilian. There are all kinds of forms of beings that are intelligent, but not exactly human in appearance. And they're not all kind. They're very dangerous, some of them, but the earth is protected now through the transformation. That hidden temples are joined together by energy.
Yeah.
And this is building a force field to protect the earth from any kind of negative aliens interacting with human beings without their permission. So that's not a danger anymore. It was at one time.
Yes, another danger lies in infiltration. If there are humans cooperating with some
Well, if they're
negative...
cooperating with them, that's different. They're inviting them.
Yeah, because they can do it for...
Because they have karmic reasons or for power, for whatever. I mean, that struggle is always going on.
Yeah, it's nothing new, but it might still be the case here.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It's a trap.
So, now a little bit about one of my favorite issues, the history of our solar system. You mentioned it a bit. So I have the impression that much of folkloric informations have roots in reality. So nowhere in Norway, in our Norse mythology, there are figures by the names of Odin and Thor. And we have mentioned Val and Thor, who came from Venus, and also your uncle by the name of Odin.
Yep.
So
Isn't
might
that
it have-
wonderful? It's because they're the ancestors of the Nordic race.
Yeah, so might it be that our mythology figures Odin and Thor in reality were visitors from Venus who...
Exactly.
yeah, you think so, or you know it?
I know it, yeah.
You know it, well, it's like this?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I know that for sure. Because the Venusians are the ancestors of the Scandinavian, the Nordic race,
Yeah.
the white people on Earth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
They're the ancestors.
Yeah.
And now they're mixed, you know, with other races, so on Earth, I mean.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So...
So I was excited when I learned I was coming to Norway.
yeah.
Because my Earth parents, my great-grandmother and grandfather were from Norway.
In the Gibson family also.
Yeah, their name was Orange.
Yeah.
My grandmother, Earth grandmother's grandpa and grandma were from Norway, and their name was Orange.
Yeah.
George Orange,
Yeah.
something like. I don't know anything. I got a history book.
Yeah.
Finally, today Anya found one.
So then you have like ancestors both in your Earth family coming from here, and also the ancestors
And the Venusians.
of Scandinavians are the Venusians.
Yeah.
So according to my sources, there is or has been extraterrestrial civilizations on these planets and moons within our solar system, and those are Venus, and they are our moon. There was or is ET life there?
No, there was only, that I know of, only mining on the moon for crystals, solar crystals.
But it was done by ETs.
I don't think they were living there. If they were living there, it was temporary, only in working camps.
Yeah, I see. And the planet Mars, there was or has been ET life there?
Yeah, Mars, Venus, Saturn, and Jupiter were the 4 original planets that were inhabited by the 4 original races of human beings who came from other galaxies far away.
Mm-hmm.
And they were given information. They were bring human life to this system.
Mm-hmm.
And so they all took their big spaceships and thousands of humans, and they migrated to this system, and they inhabited Mars, Venus, Saturn, and Jupiter at the time before the Earth was even a planet.
So the black race, that is the Africans, their ancestors came from Jupiter.
Uh-huh.
And the yellow race, the Chinese and the Japanese, they came from Mars.
Yep.
And the red race, that is the Indians, they came from Saturn.
Mm-hmm.
And the white race, that was you or your ancestors coming from Venus. So, do you know other planets or moons with life today? I know there is life on Uranus, and at least one of the moons of Uranus. What about Neptune? What about other moons?
I'm not really positive. I know I've heard about Uranus, but I'm not positive, no. I love Pluto, and I found out that it's not even considered a planet anymore.
But is there any traffic there or life there?
No, they just said that it's so small.
Mm-hmm.
It's more like an asteroid or something, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I was disappointed because I like Pluto.
Yeah, I thought it was... they did bad to kick Pluto out of the solar system because it must feel very, very lonely there now, being outcast.
I felt the same way.
Yeah, you did?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When the scientists said that on TV, I was like, boo on you, I don't like you anymore. I don't want to hear your theories.
Yeah.
It was his theory that it's not a planet.
Yeah.
So he protested until he got it booted out. I said, how can they do that? You know, once you're a planet, how can they boot you out? All of a sudden, you're not a planet anymore.
If you still keeping the same elliptic orbit, there's no physical difference. So, what planets in our solar system take part in the Brotherhood of the planets now?
Mars, Venus, Jupiter, and Saturn. And then there's Sirius, and there's some of the Pleiadians. there is even aliens that don't look human that are part of it, but they're from planets that people never heard of. But there's many, many.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now you mentioned
At least 40.
Yeah. You mentioned people from Jupiter and Saturn, but can they live? Do they live inside the planets or?
No, they live on the astral too.
Okay,
At the
they're
moment.
at the astral.
But they all have one city on the surface that's hidden under a dome, a climatic structure, so they can manifest physical bodies to live in the physical.
On those planets, that's also on these
Yeah.
planets, because I know you did that at Rets,
Yeah.
which is this multi-dimensional or two-dimensional city on the planet Venus, hidden
Right.
below the dome.
But there's one on every one of those planets.
How are these cities called at Jupiter and Saturn?
I don't know.
Mm.
I don't know. I just bring the information from
Yeah,
Venus.
but the name doesn't matter unless you. Yeah.
Or you wouldn't know anyway. It's
No,
a language.
no, I know that these concepts are in place there as well.
Yeah.
Do you know anything about the circumstances that led to the destruction of the planet Maidak or Malona, which between Mars and Jupiter, that caused the creation of what we now know as the asteroid belt?
I heard about it. I read about it a little bit from this scientist that Adamski knew, who wrote a book, Other Tongues, Other Flesh. I read about it in his book, but I don't really know myself, no.
Yeah, I see. Because Adamski, he was an American, very
Yeah.
spiritually enlightened, and he had some contact with people
It was
from...
the first Venusian contact on
Yeah.
Earth to be made publicly known.
Yeah. What was the names of the Venusians, the Venusian that he met?
Orthon.
Orton it was, yeah.
That was another uncle for myself.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's also one of your
Uncle
uncles.
Orthon, Uncle Odin, yeah.
Yeah.
And Omnec.
Yeah.
We're all a O.
Yeah. Is that some particular symbolic
It
significance?
was just our family.
Okay.
It's quite normal for our family to choose names with O's when we're in the physical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And here now we are in Oslo, which is two O's, one at the beginning and one in the end.
Exactly. It's the perfect place for me.
Yeah, and we are in October.
Oh. Oh.
And today is Onsdag, Wednesday is Onsdag in Norwegian language.
So everything is O.
Yeah, and if you see, we have the 8th of October, which is in like two circles.
Yeah, the infinity.
Yeah, infinity. Nice. So, yeah, we spoke of the different races. Why were life conditions lost at those planets? Jupiter, Saturn, Mars, Venus. What actually happened? There was life.
Partially because the planet is so old, it was just going into a dormant stage, and partially because of developing their technology, they made mistakes and destroyed their environment, which they're trying to prevent on Earth through the transformation.
But was it like accidental for not knowing better, or was it some sort of
Yeah.
Space Wars, Star Wars, or
No, it
shootout?
was more or less out of learning.
Yeah,
Yeah,
doing dangerous experiments.
exactly. You learn through experience, and then you try to prevent the same thing from happening elsewhere. And we decided that we're going to protect the Earth and prevent this from happening because the Earth is unique. It was created, all the life forms, the plants, the minerals, the animals were brought here from other galaxies by the 4 original races that inhabited the Earth and brought human life here. And so the Earth is very unique because everything on Earth was brought here to support the Earth and to cooperate and create a paradise on Earth.
Yeah.
And so the Earth is unique because the inhabitants are from many different races of beings. And all of the life forms, the animals, the plants, and everything, they're all working in cooperation to harmonize and balance the Earth. And so the decision was made after hundreds of meetings that the earth would be protected, that we would transform the earth and raise its vibrations rather than have it go into destruction, either through war or any other thing. So we're nullifying all the negative powers that are controlling and ruling the earth, so that human beings have a chance to regenerate, and through the transformation process, the two brain halves will function as one, and new chakras will be created in the body, and the body will go through a process of changing to a higher form of being. And that's what we're doing. It's happening now at the time. It started in 1999.
So how are these changes implemented within, let's say, like newborn babies? Is it some sort of genetic change, or?
It's implemented through all the animals, the nature spirits. Everything is cooperating by changing their frequency and their sound patterns. And they've been doing it since 1999, and the spaceships are located around the Earth, and they're also sending energy from their ships to the Earth to support the system's change. And then the spiritual hierarchy is sending energy from the non-physical level, so it's working on all levels.
Yeah.
It's been going on since 1999, and people, and the Earth is, even though the negative powers know they're falling, they're fighting back with all the power they can.
Yeah, they are creating fear through the media and things like that.
Exactly,
So,
because they know that they can't control anymore, and they don't want to give up. But on the other hand, eventually there will be mass suicides because people are so involved in the technology and so engrossed in the money systems and all that, that they can't accept the changes. And things will get worse before it gets better, but it's that way with anything that's bad. I mean, it's like poison has to come to the surface before it can heal, you know.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening.
Yeah, I see. So there seems to be lots of UFO observations taking place nowadays. But are the UFOs and the larger ships, are they safe from being attacked by accelerated particle beam weapons that has been developed within U.S. military complex, industrial complex, and so on?
Their technology is so great that the Earth has no chance, because it makes all the technology exist here obsolete. It's so far more advanced than what we have on Earth.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have no fear. They fear us. We don't fear them.
Yeah.
They don't even want to admit that we exist because of their fear. Even though they know of our technology, and since we won't give them the technology, and the negative aliens only exchange it with the okay to do the manipulation of the cattle and some humans, and now that's ended because of the transformation. But that was going on for a while, where that in exchange for certain technology, they were allowed to abduct people and mutilate cattle and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that was the deal being done in the 1950s by the US President Eisenhower.
Yeah, it was an exchange program.
Yeah.
And they have some of the technology and some of the ships, but now they're obsolete because their technology is far more advanced. So that stuff is out of date.
Yeah. So what was it all good for?
Yeah. Just to park in the underground and try to figure out how to use them.
Yeah.
They figured out some of it, but not most of it.
Oh, they got other things they were not able to reverse engineer?
No, they have all the computer systems and everything, and laser beams, all that stuff came from this technology.
Yeah.
but they don't know how to use the ships because they don't have the consciousness,
Yeah.
and they won't.
You might need to have some spiritual
Yeah.
compatibility with some of
You
the
have to
technology.
have.
Maybe.
You have to have before you can have this technology. It won't function without mind control, you know.
Oh yeah.
And man hasn't learned that yet.
Mm-hmm.
They only control each other.
Yeah. So, and now a bit about some so-called scientific, I call it hypothesis. So the so-called Big Bang theory, it seems like it is assuming that our visible frequency spectrum, which is the 3D or the physical plane, it's focusing only on crude matter, but viewed in the perspective of the realms of the higher frequencies, where the vibrations are faster. It's like the crude matter only perspective on reality seems to be omitting important information about creation, which makes it somewhat unscientific.
No. I go with the creator. I'm not into the Big Bang theory.
Neither am I.
No,
So,
it's too scientific, and it doesn't leave room for how everything came to be.
yeah,
It just tells you chemically how something could happen, but
Yeah.
it doesn't explain life or nothing about human beings or animals or nothing.
yeah, it's quite
And it
reductionist.
leaves out the soul,
Yeah, consciousness.
and consciousness,
Mm-hmm.
all that stuff is not explained, so I don't go along with it. It's fascinating, but I'm not really in agreement with it.
Yeah, and concerning how different life forms have come to Earth, is it so that some life forms might have been manifested from higher dimensions?
Yeah.
Because there is so much perfection in nature, as if it was designed somewhere else, and then
through the hidden temples.
yeah,
The hidden temples were portals to the other dimension, and they had the ability to manifest in these temples
yeah,
and create stuff like crystals and so on.
yeah.
Yeah.
Also, like creating, manifesting life forms.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Certain life forms.
Yeah. So, some do you have any examples?
No, I couldn't tell
So
you.
I see, like it's like falcons or spiders. They are so perfect in their way to operate.
Yeah.
So
It could be. I don't know. I'm not really positive.
but much of it has been brought from other places.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like the pyrite, or what do you call it? This metal that always is formed in cubes.
Mm-hmm.
That is like one of the forms. It's a metal that forms in cubes.
Okay.
It's a mineral,
Yeah.
and it's like a metal, but it's always in cube form.
Okay. Like
So that's not made by nature.
Mm-hmm.
And I think gold, I think it's many different things.
Yeah.
They have to do with alchemy and all that. And the alchemy was connected to this manifestation process.
Mm-hmm.
Saint Germain was one of the features.
He lived in France some centuries ago.
Yeah,
Okay. So he was some sort of alchemist, or
yeah. I studied under him as an alchemist. He wasn't a spiritual teacher for me.
he was not.
No, he was just an alchemist. And I
Okay.
studied alchemy
Yeah.
at one time, yeah.
And did you manage to manifest gold?
No. I still have no idea what in the world I was doing.
Yeah.
I never understood the whole process.
Yeah.
Even in that lifetime when I studied, I didn't know. And now I certainly don't know.
Yeah.
Because I have not a scientific mind in this life.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yeah.
I work more from the emotions,
Yeah.
from feeling.
You're like a spiritual teacher.
Exactly.
Mm.
Yeah. Well, I think I'm going to have to go. I think I'm running out of energy.
Yeah.
I have
So
to have more tonight.
yeah, we are through. So I just want to ask you one final question. what advice you will give to people who are living here on Earth now, who want to appreciate and adapt to the new phase of life on Earth that is now underway?
They have to replace criticism and judgment with acceptance and love. And the only kind of love that's true is unconditional, like the Creator has for all living things. It loves everything just because it exists and for no other reason. With no condition. Just, I love you because you are. And that's how we have to learn to love each other.
Thank you very much, Omnec Onec.
Okay, Amul Abaktu Barakabshad. That means, may the universal love and blessings be. Thank you.
Thank you, very good.
Thank you, Hans.
You're welcome.